A key to having a great speech is that it must have a structure for the audience to follow and remember it by. Lots of videos would like to teach you the one true framework for all speeches. There is no one true framework. Let me tell you about 7. You can also download my free ebook on these frameworks by following the link in the description.
Distinctions for life. Helping you get what you really want in life with small changes that make a big difference.
I'm Ron Davis, and I'm all about helping ambitious people go from being wannabe entrepreneurs to having a profitable and sustainable business. I do this by giving you the mental tools to understand your business and what you need to do next to make it happen. These videos are one way that I do that. Another way is via an ebook with lots of frameworks on how to do your speeches. If you would like to get that, follow the link below. Why must a speech even have a structure? Can't you just get up there and talk about everything that you know, or whatever comes to your mind? No, you can't. You see, the purpose of a speech is to give something useful to an audience. Assuming that your audience is humans, you need a way to organize those things in their heads so that they can remember it. Also, so that they can come to the same conclusion you did if you're trying to make a point. What you need is a structure, a skeleton, a framework, something that organizes the content for them. Starting with a framework also helps you. It gives you a starting point, sort of a fill-in-the-blanks worksheet, which can help you create faster. Here are the 7 frameworks I'm going to tell you about. The Tim Ferris, Heart, Hands, and Head, the Listical, the Hero's Journey, the Pitch, the podcast or YouTube episode, and lastly, the framework is the framework. This list is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm going to go over them pretty fast here. If you want a deeper dive, claim the ebook, link in the description. The Tim Ferris. I'm a fan of Tim, and he wrote a blog post a number of years ago about how he structures his speeches. It is a simple 3-point structure, and it has been my go-to for generic speeches. It is even how I structure impromptu speeches because it is so easy. It is also, basically, the 5-paragraph essay that you learned in English. You start with an opening, and then you have 3 points. For each point, you give a case study or a story to illustrate or prove the concept, and then a discussion of the point. The discussion can come first and give the case study afterwards, or vice versa. It's pretty basic, and you can use it for about anything. Number 2, hands, heart, and head. I just learned this one recently from Travis White, who learned it from a friend who learned it from a speaking guru named Pat Quinn. It's structured like this. The basic top-level outline is where it gets its name. The sections of the speech are hands, heart, head, heart. And here's what that means. You open by handing them some useful stuff. This is the 3 resource open that I mentioned in the How to Start a Speech episode. Then you move into heart, where you tell stories. The way Travis explained it, you give them a story of the ordinary to show them what's ordinary, then a story of the extraordinary to show them what is extraordinary, and then explain why one is ordinary and the other is extraordinary. Then you move into head, where you explain the strategy and give them a plan. Once you give them a plan, you back it up with testimonials that are examples that it worked. And you close going back to heart and close with an emotional story. This takes quite a bit more preparation, but builds in much more power to your speech. As an interesting aside, I noticed that Travis uses this framework not just for speeches, but for blog posts. Check out his blog via the link in the description. Number 3 is the list, or in elite internet slang, the listicle. You give a list of X number of things that can change your life. Then each point is one of those things. For example, I don't know. Hey, how about 7 speech frameworks that slay the audience? Really, it's the title that makes this one popular. Those numbered lists make people click, and the title is generally to the point. But you can screw up the opening and closing very easily because they don't have any structure for them. Number 4 is the hero's journey. Tell a story using this classic structure. Donald Miller at StoryBrand has summed up this structure into one long sentence. A simple framework that you can flesh out for your speech. A character with a problem meets a guide who understands their fears and gives them a plan then calls them to action that results in success or failure, normally tragic results. Get Donald's book, Story Brand, for an in-depth dive into this structure. Number 5, the pitch. The pitch is generally used to sell something. Specifically, my variation is what I use to pitch businesses. When I pitched my video game company, this was the structure I used to raise $20,000. And it goes: problem, solution, competition, team, call to action. Start with what is the problem that people have your product or company is solving. Then, how do you solve that problem in a unique way? Who is your competition and how are you better? Who is your team that's going to make this happen? And lastly, a call to action. Generally, to give you money. If you can quickly and concisely deliver each of these points, those listening are primed to do your call to action. If you answer poorly, well, you're going to have some explaining to do. Number 6, the podcast or YouTube episode. This is the basic framework I use for episodic content. It is the outline of my podcast, and it is the outline of this YouTube channel. You open with a teaser where you tell what this episode is about. That leads into a canned pre-recorded opening about your whole show. When you come out of the pre-recorded stuff, you generally go into a repeated but varied opening. Something you say every time coming out of the intro, but it varies some. For example, in my EMS podcast, we opened with a sidekick reference to introduce the host. Something like, "Welcome to EMS Newbie, I'm Ron Davis, and playing Batman to my Robin is paramedic Kelly Grayson." Next week, it might be playing Obi-Wan to my Luke Skywalker is... Then we'd move into banter, which is the general back and forth between the hosts. And after a bit of that, we would get into the core content of the episode, which is what we promised in the title and the teaser. After we were done with the core content, we would have a live close, which, like the varied open, this is something that you say at the end of every episode that may vary some. It should include a call to action. Then you go into the pre-recorded close, which in the case of this show includes the bloopers. Number 7, the framework is the framework. Lastly, if you are talking about a framework, then that framework is the structure of your talk. A dead giveaway that you should be using the framework as your structure is if that framework is an acronym. That tells you to just present the acronym as your structure. The acronym will give them what they need to remember the points on. Alright, that was number 7, and those 7 frameworks or structures for your speech are a lot, and I realize that I've covered a huge amount, but I've written a short ebook with all of them in it. You can download it for free by following the link in the description or by going to godfl.link. Question of the day: what is your go-to structure for a speech? Thanks for watching today. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. This channel is all about helping you get what you really want in life with small changes that make a big difference. Until next time, I'm Ron Davis. A dead giveaway that you should be using the framework for the framework of your... Oh, golly me, there's too many frameworks in there. Why must a structure even have a speech? Let me tell you about 7 of 9. What? Like, that's like, stop. Go check this out right here.